Tonight, the symbolic significance of King Charles and Queen Camilla's visit to Canada. The highly anticipated speech from the throne. Why it comes at such a critical time.
Canadians really want to see the king make a strong statement.
And a look inside the history carved out from the monarch's unique ceremonial chair. A new era of Parliament ushered in with a new Speaker of the House.
I would remind members that we are at the beginning of a mandate in the selfish hope that you will afford me a little grace period.
Oh my God!
Plus, the alarming damage from a soccer victory parade after a driver's striking turn into unsuspecting fans. Why Donald Trump is calling Vladimir Putin, quote, absolutely crazy. And revisiting a long, life-changing royal journey.
Here we are.
At the young age of 88.
So you never know what's around the corner.
The special story connecting Canada's so-called coronation girls.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, reporting tonight from Ottawa.
Good evening. For only the third time since Confederation, a reigning monarch will deliver the speech from the throne tomorrow morning. And later, with Queen Camilla, lay a wreath at the National War Memorial behind me to mark the 25th anniversary of the tomb of the unknown soldier. The couple arrived in Ottawa this afternoon, greeted by hundreds of well-wishers. Camilla wearing a diamond maple leaf brooch from the royal jewelry collection, a gift from King George VI to his wife, the Queen Mother, ahead of her first royal visit to Canada in 1939. It was then passed on to their daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. CTV's Colton Prale starts us off on the brief but historic tour steeped in symbolism.
In a reception both regal and familiar, Canada welcomed a new monarch for the first time in nearly 70 years. The Prime Minister, Governor General, and Indigenous leaders greeting him as he stepped off the plane.
I am really struck by the continued commitment and the inclusion of Canada's Indigenous peoples and Canada's National Indigenous Organization leaders in events such as this.
But King Charles III and Queen Camilla are no strangers. It's his 20th visit, and perhaps the most consequential.
The geopolitical sphere that we are in really influenced him to say, yes, I will be there. I will stand up for Canada at this time when they really need it.
Anchored by the speech from the throne Tuesday and meant to showcase the country's sovereignty, Monday's royal tour shone a spotlight on Canada and the lucky few of the hundreds of Canadians huddled in downtown Ottawa who exchanged a quick royal hello.
I think it's a big deal that he's here for his first as king. I've been a fan since I was little.
At Rideau Hall, the king planting a ceremonial tree, his 5th time doing so, in a symbol of friendship and cooperation, before sitting down behind closed doors with both the Prime Minister and the Governor General.
These are important opportunities for the king to have a candid and frank assessments of the situation in Canada.
Now Canadians' eyes and ears are turning to tomorrow's speech from the throne, hoping to hear the King's response to that assessment and any defense of Canada's sovereignty that may come. Omar.
All right, Colton, thank you. There was pomp and circumstance inside the House of Commons today, too, as Parliament resumed for the first time since December. CTV's Mike LeCouture on the first orders of business.
In a tradition dating back centuries, Quebec MP Francis Scarpellegia feigns resistance to take his seat as the Speaker of the House. As he thanked members for their votes, he also asked for their cooperation in keeping decorum.
I would remind members that we are at the beginning of a mandate in the selfish hope that you will afford me a little grace period.
That sentiment also came from rookie MP and Prime Minister Mark Carney.
I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason. Because this House has rules. It has traditions.
Traditions that former Speaker and current Conservative leader in the House, Andrew Scheer, knows all too well.
Debates should be passionate. They should be lively. The lives of Canadians are changed by the decisions we make, and so it is normal that members get enthusiastic and fiery. When the stakes are so high, often the best thing you can do is allow the players to play a little bit.
Now, the number of players has grown with 343 members of Parliament, but there is one less recognized party as the NDP failed to elect 12 MPs. And the government House leader confirmed those 7 members won't get official party status.
In order to change that, it would require a broad consensus of the House of Commons, a consensus that I'm unaware exists as of this point.
Interim leader of the NDP, Don Davies, says he's not looking for an exception, but he wants access to resources.
These are all little privileges that are only afforded to recognized parties, but we should be able to get those because it'll help us do our job better.
Part of that job is to scrutinize legislation like the Liberal middle-class tax cut and the bill to crack down on crime like car theft. All things that the government wants to get done in the next 4 weeks before the summer break. Omar.
All right, Mike, thanks. A relatively short initial window with lots on the agenda. Let's get to CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Capellos, right now. This speech, of course, Vashi, will be delivered by the King, but very much reflects the government's priorities. What will you be watching for?
Well, 2 things. First of all, on the King delivering it, there's going to be a lot of dignitaries that we have not seen in one room. Former prime ministers, everyone from Justin Trudeau to Stephen Harper. That will be a sight to behold. So I'm very curious to see their reaction and kind of what it looks like to have them all together. On the throne speech part of it, I'm interested in the content. You heard Mike reference crime and the middle class, for example. What kinds of legislation, if any, are they going to be specific about in this throne speech that we haven't already heard at a high level or kind of, through political rhetoric? Like, what's the meat of the government's agenda? That's what I'm looking for.
The fact that the King is here affirms Canada's distinct identity relative to the U.S., but how will that be reflected in this speech tomorrow, you think?
I would be really surprised if it were overt or particularly aggressive. Donald Trump likes King Charles. I also have seen so far from this government a desire to turn down the rhetoric rather than advance it. I don't think they're looking to, create further antagonism between our 2 countries, but I do think by virtue, as you point out, of him being here at this moment in time, it is meant to send a more general signal.
All right, Vashi, thank you. We'll see you in a few short hours. You can join Vashi and I for special coverage of the speech from the throne starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern on CTV News Channel and ctvnews.ca. In other news, a day of joy took a terrifying turn when a driver plowed through a crowd celebrating Liverpool's title-winning football season in England. And a warning, the images are disturbing.
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested. The incident is not being treated as terrorism.
This video posted online shows the incident. 27 people were taken to hospital, including 4 children. 1 adult and 1 child are being treated for serious injuries. The streets were packed with hundreds of thousands of revelers. Police believe it was an isolated incident. At least 52 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, including dozens seeking shelter at a school where women and children are said to be among the victims. Israel confirmed it targeted the school, saying the building was being used by Hamas to plan terrorist attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump publicly called out Vladimir Putin today after some of the largest Russian drone attacks on Ukraine since the war began. CTV's Heather Wright on what the escalation could signal.
This is the aftermath of a Russian drone attack on the port city of Odessa, part of the largest air assault on Ukraine in more than 3 years of war. Overnight, Russia launched more than 350 drones and 9 cruise missiles, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. In the last week, at least 30 civilians have been killed, more than 160 injured, prompting a rare rebuke from the American president.
I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay?
Donald Trump followed those comments with a post on social media where he called Vladimir Putin crazy and also criticized both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and former President Joe Biden, saying this is their war, not his.
We are watching a diplomatic failure and probably the United States to walk away and say Ukraine it's the EU's problem now, it's not mine.
The European Union has imposed fresh sanctions on Moscow, and going forward, allied countries will no longer restrict Kyiv from using long-range missiles. And while President Donald Trump has sharpened his language against Moscow, experts don't predict it will translate to more aid for Ukraine.
Nothing in the statement suggests any willingness to take any action in response, just complaints, not policies.
This Russian escalation unfolded during a multi-day prisoner swap, the largest of the war, and as the United States tries to broker peace talks which face an uncertain future.
I think for Putin, this is a way to string Trump along, to make him feel like he's concluding important deals with people who have no intention of following those deals.
Ukraine has agreed to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire, a proposal made by the United States that Russia rejected. And analysts predict these stepped-up Russian attacks are just the start of a summer offensive. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. French President Emmanuel Macron is downplaying a video showing him being shoved in the face by his wife. Cameras caught Macron's wife Brigitte pushing Macron's face away as they were about to disembark from their plane in Vietnam. Macron says the moment was simply a result of his joking and teasing his wife and not a domestic incident. Coming up.
You're representing Canada to not only Canadians but to the world.
The man behind the throne fit for a king. Plus, how much Loblaw is forced to pay for the bread fixing scandal. Some Canadian shoppers are about to get a slice of a $500 million bread price-fixing settlement. An Ontario judge signed off on it today. A class action lawsuit accused Loblaw of an industry-wide scheme to fix the price of bread. $404 million will be paid by Loblaw and its parent company, George Weston. The remaining $96 million will be accounted for through a gift card program. People who bought packaged bread between 2001 and 2021 are eligible. And the Ontario man who confessed to stealing a historic portrait of Winston Churchill from Ottawa's Chateau Laurier Hotel is going to jail. Jeffrey Wood has been sentenced to 2 years less a day. The portrait, known as the Roaring Lion, disappeared more than 3 years ago, but the theft was not discovered for months because the thief replaced the original with a fake. The original was returned after investigators discovered a man in Italy who, not knowing the work was stolen, bought the work through a London auction house. That portrait is by celebrated Canadian photographer Yusuf Karsh. A little less well known is another talent, Phil White. He used to be Canada's Dominion sculptor, the person who officially supervises all parliamentary carvings. And tomorrow, 4 years after he retired from the role, a work he designed will make history. I visited him this morning. When King Charles delivers a speech in the Senate tomorrow, he'll do it from the throne Phil White designed.
A lot of things going through my mind. Will he like it? Will he be comparing it to what he sits on in Buckingham Palace? I don't know.
These days, White's basement workshop in his Ottawa home is where he spends a lot of his time after he retired from a job he calls the privilege of a lifetime.
The official parliamentary sculptor. The story and culture of Canada being told through the decorative arts in the building, carved in stone, carved in wood.
When Centre Block shut down for renovations and the old throne also went for a refresh, the Senate chamber moved to the old Ottawa train station. White was given mere months to come up with a few sketches for a new throne.
They picked one and it went to the speaker for approval, which was like a day and a half.
Which is fast.
Lightning fast.
That was in 2017.
This is a synopsis of the design process.
Drawings that are now a tangible part of Canada's history. The new throne, made of Canadian black walnut and donated English walnut.
From the forest behind Windsor Castle.
And though he won't meet the king this time, in 2010 he did meet the Queen, who attended the unveiling of a carving he created. He still remembers feeling the nerves as their meeting got closer.
I was sort of standing with my arm on my hand on my sleeve and waiting and waiting.
A pose his wife asked him about when he got home.
She was watching the whole thing and she said, you know, why are you grabbing your sleeve all the time? And I said, because I was nervous and my hands were sweating and I knew I had to shake hands with the Queen. I didn't want her to shake hands with a wet hand.
He hasn't given up on his passion, one he's keen to share with others.
I have a little bit more work to do. No thrones in my future.
Well, you see, it's very satisfying, right?
It is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Equally satisfying, he says, having had the chance to preserve the stories of this country as Dominion sculptor.
You're representing Canada to not only Canadians, but to the world. I mean, there's like 1 million people that come through there every year. Every year. And they're from everywhere. And that's your opportunity to show them what Canada's about.
What a great conversation. Tomorrow is also a day full of pride for the RCMP who will escort the King and Queen.
It's hard. It's emotional because and she said, I know what my daddy's going to do, and I'm so proud of him.
That's Sergeant Jeremy Dawson, the Mountie who will drive the Royals during the procession. CTV News was given an inside look at the carriage. Originally built in the 1800s, it was found in a dilapidated state in Quebec, then restored by a man who donated it to the RCMP. This is the first time it will be used in a royal outing. Still ahead, the significance of the speech from the throne. The historic footsteps King Charles will be walking in. Tomorrow will mark the first time since 1977 that a reigning monarch reads the speech from the throne. CTV's Judy Trin looks at what they've meant to Canada and why this one is especially significant.
Queen Elizabeth II was the first reigning monarch to open Parliament with a speech from the throne in 1957. Conservative Prime Minister John Diefenbaker basked in the moment.
The visit was long awaited and long hoped for, and when it materialized, it just showed and made more concrete the very deep and intimate connection between Canada and Britain.
The connection between Britain and Canada was also threaded in the dress the 31-year-old Queen helped design and wore to the gala after her speech.
The embodiment of the dress is a fine mingling of maple leaves, of course they are very visible, and English Windsor roses, exemplifying the fact that the British monarchy is in fact the Canadian monarchy, and the Queen wished to convey that message through her glamorous dress.
The next royal throne speech would come in 1977 during the Queen's Silver Jubilee, as support for the monarchy was waning.
I have always been full of admiration for what Canada is. The new generation fill me with confidence for what Canada can become.
As separatist voices were growing louder, Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau invited the Queen to deliver a strategy for uniting Canada that would involve distancing itself from Britain.
This is the late 1970s. A separatist government had been elected in Quebec in 1976. Really, it is a striking formal announcement from the mouth of the sovereign that the Trudeau government was going to pursue patriation of the Constitution, that as a way of encouraging Canadian unity.
Canada should be our 51st state.
Now, as Canada's sovereignty is being threatened by President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Mark Carney has invited King Charles to give the speech from the throne to send a clear message. Canada, while valuing close ties with the United States, is decidedly not American.
Whether people are aware of it or not, the sovereign is the heart, the source of gravity that holds our entire political system together. And by extension, makes our politics, makes our government, and makes our electorate different than the United States.
This is the King's 20th visit to this country. He's now 76 years old. Observers say the King's willingness to deliver the speech is a sign of the monarch's commitment to Canada, sovereign, strong, and free. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
History was also made on the ice tonight, with the Minnesota Frost winning their second straight Walter Cup in the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Keep our eyes on 16. Minnesota working in the zone. In front, a chance here. Phillips at the cross.
The Frost winning the series in overtime, defeating the Ottawa Charge. Still ahead, an enduring royal connection, how a brush with royalty bonded these women and made them witnesses to history. Decades ago, 50 Canadian girls were lucky enough to be chosen to attend Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. Now, after yet another coronation and approaching 90 years old, CTV's Caitlin Wilson explains their true crowning achievement may be their lifelong friendship.
A moment as symbolic as it is rooted in tradition. And for these women, it's another page in their royal fairy tale.
It was really quite unbelievable.
50 ordinary high school girls from across the country, chosen in 1953 to embark on an extraordinary adventure to witness the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II.
We wore them every day. A little blue suit.
Sponsored by Canadian businessman Garfield Weston, they set sail from Montreal, dressed in matching coats and gloves. For many, it was their first time leaving home.
That Philip sort of went like this, look up there, and that she looked up and saw us. But is that a dream? I don't know.
No, it's not a dream.
It's not a dream.
What was planted during that 7-week journey went beyond royal pageantry. It sparked friendships lasting a lifetime. A bond at the heart of the documentary Coronation Girls.
I think friendship, one of the things about it is it's the purest of endeavors. And one really journeys into the heart of it without ever really knowing its destination.
2 years ago, 12 of the women reunited, returning to London. A journey orchestrated by the film's creator, this time to meet King Charles. A chance to feel 17 again, to relive the magic of a moment that shaped their lives.
As magnificent as it was for me to see the Queen go by in her golden coach, for me it was more profound to meet him and talk to him.
And today another chapter unfolds, this time on Canadian soil. 3 of the women, now nearing 90, reuniting once again for a front row seat to a royal tree planting. A symbol of strength and unity, just like the roots they planted all those years ago.
Here we are.
At the young age of 88.
So you never know what's around the corner.
Next month, the women will be awarded coronation medals from the lieutenant governors of their province, along with the documentary's filmmaker, a celebration of friendship and the rare gift of going back. Caitlin Wilson, CTV News, Ottawa.
Incredible story. And that's a snapshot of this Monday. For all of us at CTV National News, good night and see you in the morning.